You obviously have other priorities on Mother's Day.
That's Marie from Everybody Loves Raymond, perhaps the most passive-aggressive sitcom character ever. You know, we deal with passive-aggressive people at home and at work all the time. This morning we're talking to author Dr. Guy Winch. His book, The Squeaky Wheel and Emotional First Aid, deal with the everyday issues of psychology. He joins us by Skype to help us deal with passive-aggressive nuts in our lives. Hello, Dr.
Hi, Doctor. Good morning.
Good morning.
So can we just run through the characteristics of what it means to be passive-aggressive so we're all understanding what we're talking about the same thing here?
Yes, and I'll use an example. The last time I was on the show, you asked me to put some art up on my wall. And so this is my example of passive-aggressive art.
Okay, that gives us a little glimpse.
So what?
Right, because it kind of does what it should, but not really. And that's what passive-aggressive people do. It's an indirect form of expressing anger and frustration so that people can feel like they're in control when they're not. But they express it via inaction and passivity and the lack of doing.
Well, this kind of thing can be maddening to when there's no, you can't really directly confront them, right? What is the way to win with someone like this?
Well, maddening is their goal a lot of the time, because their goal is to remain calm and quiet, and that you get very upset, and that you express all the anger and all the frustration. And they're very slippery, because by inaction, they have plausible deniability. They can always say, I didn't know, and you weren't clear enough. But they do things that can be very frustrating. You know, in a relationship, they can go shopping when you've given them a very clear shopping list of what to get, and come back and say with weird products and say things like, but I thought you loved yak milk. I don't understand what the problem is.
There's chronic lateness, procrastination. These are the traits of a passive-aggressive person. At work, we have a graphic that shows some of the typical things, phrases that happen at work. You never said when. Do we have that?
I think it's the next graphic, Larry.
There we go.
There we go.
You never told me when you needed it. Should I do it that way? I thought you knew already. You didn't respond, so I had to ask a superior. All examples, correct?
Right, and so they're very disruptive in the workplace because they can really sabotage projects. They really create failure because they're going to be absent in a key moment where they're supposed to contribute something to teamwork. People around them start to act very defensively because they can't count on them and they're constantly doing things wrong. And so it's a very difficult dynamic at work. And it's very hard, again, to corral them and to confront them because they'll constantly use excuses. Well, I didn't know, I didn't realize, it's not something intentional. So really what you have to do at work and what you have to do in a relationship is really try and confront them in a very calm way, and you have to call them on their behavior. Another thing you can do in relationships and at work is to ask them to set their own timelines and deadlines. In other words, when can I expect that to be ready? You tell me what the deadline is. You tell me that. In relationships, you can say things like, I know you must be angry at me for all kinds of things. I'm not perfect. Perhaps you can let me know one of them and we can discuss it. Because you want to encourage your spouse or your significant other to be able to express their anger towards you when you have it. And so that when they do, even if it's a small thing, you can validate it. You can say, I'm so grateful you told me that. I understand how you feel. Now we can discuss it. It's something you want to encourage. In the workplace, I think one of the most important things, two very important things to do. One is to document in writing. When you give somebody instructions who's passive-aggressive, be extremely, extremely detailed. Don't assume, well, that is obvious, because they'll use the fact that it's obvious to claim that it wasn't. So spell it all out. Be extremely redundant and put it in writing so they can't deny it. The other things I would suggest, and this is especially to bosses, to leaders, and this is what I suggest when I work with managers and companies, is introduce this notion of good citizenship. Introduce good citizenship as a very important criteria for job evaluation. That you're going to expect that if they think it's important for the team and they don't do it, the fact that it wasn't their specific job or you didn't expressly tell them to do that is not a good excuse, because good citizenship should have moved them to take care of whatever the issue is they didn't take care of.
But Doctor, in the big picture, it sounds like you're saying we all have to tiptoe around them and manage them, when shouldn't management confront them and say, look, you're not a good communicator, and we need to teach you how to be a better communicator?
That's true, and usually what you have in these situations is you have the management saying you're not a good communicator, and them saying in their part of their self-reports and self-evaluations, no, the management didn't communicate well because they didn't tell me explicitly or specifically or set the timeline. So then it becomes very difficult for human resources to take actions because there's very little actionable stuff because of how slippery they are and how they go about it. And that's why I think that introducing this notion of good citizenship is a way to circumvent that whole dialogue about communication and whether something was made explicit or not. Because if it's good citizenship, you should have known that would be important.
All right, Dr. Guy Winch, the books are The Squeaky Wheel and The Emotional First Aid. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I really like that picture.
Yeah, really nice.
Really nice.
Yeah, it's really
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thank you.